When fear and Michael Jordan are put in the same sentence, it ends up being about the other guy pissing his pants. It is hard not to fear Jordan. He is one of the greatest to ever touch the basketball and one of the game's coldest killers to ever play the sport. He is lethal. Those who feared him never stood a chance. And those who challenged him found out very quickly that he had no time for their own delusion. But even the great Michael Jordan, who ran the NBA for 6 years by winning 6 chips, 5 MVPs, and 10 scoring titles, had someone that he feared. Who could this man be? Who could make a cold-blooded killer hesitate? What type of ruthless monster can strike doubt into Jordan himself? The monster would be 7 foot tall, 7 foot 6 inches long, and a 255-pound behemoth to take upon this task. This monster would be in the top 10 for points, rebounds, blocks, and steals for 10 consecutive seasons. No, I am not making up this monster. He is real. In fact, as destiny would have it, this monster was born the same year as Michael Jordan, and he was drafted in the same class with Jordan. It is none other than the Nigerian god himself, Hakeem Olajuwon. The Dream was one of the very few players that Michael Jordan had no choice but to respect and, to an extent, fear.
Hakeem Olajuwon is Muslim. And so during Ramadan, he's not allowed to drink or eat anything. So we had a noon game. And so you can't eat or drink anything until sundown. This guy still puts up 40 points, doesn't drink any water, doesn't have a meal. Damn! If you ask Michael Jordan what one guy he ever feared, it was Hakeem Olajuwon. He used to call us, I'm scared of the big African because he's from Nigeria. That's what.
This is Robert Horry, also known as Big Shot Rob, one of the greatest clutch shooters in NBA history. He has proved time in and time out that when the game is on the line, he will always deliver victory. As a result, he won a total of 7 rings, 2 with the Rockets, 3 with the Lakers, and 2 with the Spurs. Fair to say that he has been around his fair share of great players and great teams. His words hold weight. MJ fearing Hakeem, in fact any player, should come as a surprise. His reputation in the basketball world is second to none as one of the biggest bullies in the NBA. Whether it was punching his own teammate or terrorizing opponents after a slip of their tongue, he was an absolute demon. But not even that demon could stop Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh man, you got a camera?
Bulls have a 7-4 lead here.
Opening up to Clark, turns inside.
Oh, the dream shot!
Olajuwon spinning one way, back the following. Oh, the dream! Put a little dream shot. Work on Bryant, turns to the right side. This time, trying to turn baseline.
And that is only a taste of what he could do on the court. Hakeem is primarily known for his dream shake. He combined a flurry of fakes with his incredible footwork that he developed by playing football at a young age. As a result, he was able to dominate the likes of Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal, David Robinson, and the list goes on and on. If there was one thing that was certain, it was that you could not guard the Dream one-on-one and expect to win the game. The other team knew it, the Rockets knew it, and even the fans knew it. So opposing teams started to double Hakeem in the post. However, while they were busy trying to stop the Dream from scoring, he was busy racking up assists like a Hall of Fame point guard. And thus it shrouded teams with the biggest dilemma of all. Do you prevent the Dream from scoring, or do you prevent him from picking your team apart through unselfishness? It was quite the conundrum, and it did not help that the Rockets deployed a lineup that brought the most out of their best player. By having 4 shooters around Hakeem at all times, like Mario Elie, Kenny the Jet Smith, Big Shot Rob, Vernon Maxwell, and you get the point, it allowed Hakeem to work with space to operate in the post and use his dazzling moves effectively. More importantly, the space allowed him to make easy reads whenever a double team would come or a defender was caught slacking. Although his passes would not lead directly to assists, it would spark ball movement that would even make Greg Popovich proud. With Hakeem at center, the Rockets were able to produce one of the best offenses in the league. However, just like Michael, Hakeem was a two-way force. In fact, you could argue that his defense was just as good as his offense, if not better. One of the best rim protectors in the history of the league. In the greatest big men era, he led the league in blocking 3 times and was always a great rim protector year in, year out. As a result, he sits at the very tippy top of all-time block leaders, having over 500 more blocks than the next guy. He was that damn good. The best part about his blocking was he would not just hit it out to the stands, but try to keep the ball in play so the team could get an extra possession. His rim protection was beautiful and methodical, not just a volleyball spike to the 4th row. However, what made his defensive impact truly special was his role as a thief. You heard that right. Hakeem was one of the best pickpocketers of all time. In fact, he is the only big man to be in the top 10 of all time in steals. His 7-foot 6-inch wingspan was not only for show. He was able to use every single inch of his body to his advantage and rose above the ranks of all-time defenders. Looking back on his career, it is crazy to think that he only picked up the game of basketball at the age of 15 and was able to become one of the greatest players to ever play the game. It comes as no surprise to me that Michael Jordan feared this man. I think everyone would be afraid to play against this monstrosity. It is truly a shame that we never got to see Michael and Hakeem face off against each other on the grandest stage, and this could probably go down as one of the biggest matchups that never happened. We all know that Jordan is one that does not take disrespect without handing it back twofold. It is safe to assume that despite going number 3, there had to be a part of him that wanted to take down Hakeem on the grandest of stages, but he never got the chance. And if he did, Jordan and the Bulls could never stop Hakeem Olajuwon. In a total of 23 matchups between the two players and their respective teams, Hakeem has came out on top in 13 of those matchups. But what about the years when the Bulls were the best? The years that they went on to win the championship. The years they ran the NBA. From 91 to 93 and from 96 to 98, Hakeem and Jordan played each other 11 times. In those 11 games, Hakeem came out on top 6 times. As great of a defender as Jordan was in his heyday, he could never solve the problem that many men have tried to conquer but ultimately failed: the lack of height. Just like the rest of them, Jordan could never guard Hakeem because he was just too damn tall and too damn good with the basketball. Jordan even stated repeatedly that he always thought of Hakeem as more of a 7-foot small forward rather than a center. A large part of that can be attributed to how Hakeem moves so quickly and elegantly with the ball in his hands. I mentioned destiny before, but it is funny that the man who was taken number 1 overall in Jordan's draft was also his worst natural enemy. The skills Hakeem possessed, paired with his measurements, makes it seem like he was built to terrorize Jordan. The only shot Jordan had at shutting him down was in his dreams. As a result, the Chicago Bulls had to deploy Luke Longley, Bill Cartwright, and Dennis Rodman, and an assortment of other big men who never had the skills to even share the floor with Hakeem. Just like many of the other opponents of the past, they tried to double him, and right on cue, he would cut them apart with his passing, and then the Rockets would hit 3 after 3 after 3. They could never solve this dilemma despite having two of the greatest defenders of all time. And do not get me started on how Olajuwon impacted the game defensively. Bottom line, he was a two-way force on equal ground with Jordan. It really goes to show how terrifying it was to play against the Dream and the Rockets. Will Jordan ever admit that he feared Hakeem the Dream? Never. Or did he? Back in 1992, a journalist by the name of Fran Blindberry claimed that while talking to Jordan about Hakeem Olajuwon, Jordan said, "You know, it's a good thing these guys can't get out of the West. We've got no answer for that big monster." Blindberry is a very credible reporter, but this is a classic he said, she said situation. But at the very least, Hakeem is the player that he holds in the highest regard, because Hakeem is the one player that could go toe to toe with him both offensively and defensively. Jordan respects Hakeem, and Hakeem respects Jordan. It speaks volume that even in retrospect, not a single NBA soul shreds the Rockets for passing up on Jordan. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon was just that damn good.